They called her the People's Princess. But on one unforgettable evening, it wasn't her smile that captured the world's attention. It was the sparkling crown resting upon her head, a royal masterpiece filled with mystery, history, heartbreak, and silent power. That tiara was far more than jewelry. It was a symbol of love, duty, rebellion, and destiny. And behind every diamond sat a story the public was never meant to know. Diana, Princess of Wales, possessed a rare ability to turn every royal appearance into a moment frozen in history. Yet among all the gowns, sapphires, pearls, and legendary fashion statements she wore, few pieces ever captured the imagination of the world quite like the elegant tiara seen in this image. The crown-like tiara she wore became one of the defining symbols of modern royalty. Delicate, feminine, and dazzling beneath the lights of palace banquets and royal ceremonies, it represented far more than wealth. It represented heritage, expectation, and the heavy burden of becoming one of the most photographed women on Earth. But what most people never realized was this: the tiara itself already carried decades of royal history before Diana ever touched it. And once it reached her, its story changed forever. The piece believed to inspire this iconic look is closely associated with the famous Spencer Tiara, one of the most recognizable royal tiaras in modern history. Unlike many jewels owned directly by the crown, this magnificent piece belonged to Diana's own aristocratic family, the Spencer family, one of Britain's oldest noble bloodlines. That single fact mattered enormously, because when Diana wore it, she was not simply wearing royal jewelry, she was wearing her family history, a history older than many royal dynasties themselves. The Spencer family had been intertwined with British nobility for centuries. Their ancestry stretched back hundreds of years, connected to political influence, military prestige, and aristocratic power. Long before Diana became the Princess of Wales, the Spencers were already part of Britain's elite social fabric. And at the center of that heritage stood the tiara. Elegant in structure and breathtaking in design, the Spencer tiara combined floral motifs, scroll-like detailing, and diamond clusters arranged with extraordinary balance. It was feminine without appearing fragile, regal without seeming aggressive, romantic without losing aristocratic authority. In many ways, it reflected Diana herself. The central design featured heart-shaped and floral-inspired forms, surrounded by diamond loops and sparkling accents that caught candlelight beautifully during evening events. The craftsmanship represented the classic elegance of 20th-century royal jewelry design, combining sophistication with softness. Unlike heavier ceremonial crowns worn by monarchs during state occasions, this tiara possessed grace and youthfulness. That is precisely why it suited Diana so perfectly. When she first emerged wearing it, newspapers across Britain erupted with fascination. Photographers scrambled for angles. Fashion critics praised the balance between innocence and majesty. Ordinary people saw something different entirely. They saw a princess who looked human, not distant, not untouchable, not cold. And perhaps that was Diana's greatest power. She transformed royal symbolism into emotional connection. While previous generations of royal women often appeared formal and unreachable, Diana radiated warmth. Even beneath diamonds and palace chandeliers, she somehow seemed approachable. The tiara did not overshadow her personality. Instead, it amplified it, and the public adored her for it. But behind the glittering images lay a far more complicated reality. By the time Diana began appearing regularly at royal banquets and official ceremonies, the pressure surrounding her life had become immense. Every hairstyle, every gesture, every expression was analyzed by newspapers around the globe. She was still incredibly young, yet expected to perform with perfect composure inside one of the most rigid institutions in the world. The tiara became part of that performance, a visual reminder that she now belonged to history. Royal protocol surrounding tiaras is deeply rooted in tradition. In Britain's aristocratic and royal circles, tiaras are generally worn by married women during formal evening occasions such as state banquets, diplomatic receptions, and royal galas. Wearing one symbolizes status, responsibility, and entry into a highly exclusive world. When Diana wore the Spencer Tiara, it marked her transition from shy, aristocratic teenager to global royal icon. Yet even during those dazzling appearances, cracks were already beginning to form behind palace walls. The world saw fairy tales. Diana experienced isolation. Cameras captured diamonds. She carried emotional exhaustion. And somehow, the contrast made her even more compelling. One particularly fascinating detail about the Spencer tiara is how emotionally attached Diana reportedly became to it. Although the royal family possessed countless historic tiaras, Diana often chose her family tiara over others available to her through royal collections. That choice was deeply symbolic. The Spencer tiara connected her to her childhood identity, to the world she knew before royal life transformed everything. In an environment where nearly every aspect of her existence became controlled by protocol, tradition, and expectation, wearing her own family tiara may have offered a sense of comfort and familiarity. It reminded her who she was, not merely a princess, but Diana Spencer. And perhaps that explains why images of her wearing it feel so emotionally powerful even decades later. There is vulnerability within those photographs, a quiet humanity, a sense that behind the diamonds stood a young woman trying to survive extraordinary pressure while the world watched her every move. The craftsmanship of the tiara itself deserves remarkable attention. Experts in royal jewelry have long admired its balanced proportions and refined detailing. The upper curves create a lace-like effect, allowing light to move naturally across the diamonds. Rather than appearing overwhelmingly heavy, the structure feels airy and graceful. This mattered greatly in photography. Under flashbulbs and ballroom lighting, the tiara shimmered almost like liquid silver. Its reflective qualities made it ideal for televised royal events during the 1980s and 1990s, helping create the ethereal image that became synonymous with Diana. And no royal figure understood visual impact better than Diana herself. Over time, she developed a sophisticated awareness of fashion diplomacy. Every outfit became communication. Every jewel became symbolism. Every public appearance carried emotional strategy. When visiting hospitals, she dressed warmly and softly. When attending state dinners, she appeared regal and commanding. When meeting children, she lowered herself physically to their level so they would not feel intimidated. These details changed public perceptions of royalty forever. And the tiara became one of the most powerful visual elements within that transformation. Yet perhaps the most haunting aspect of the story is how the crown eventually came to symbolize contradiction. Because the more glamorous Diana appeared publicly, the more painful her private struggles became. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, media obsessions surrounding her life had reached astonishing intensity. Paparazzi followed her relentlessly. Newspapers competed aggressively for photographs. Rumors concerning her marriage dominated headlines across Britain and beyond. Still, whenever she appeared wearing the tiara, the public momentarily returned to the fantasy. The fairy tale princess, the elegant royal beauty, the future queen many believed Britain deserved. But reality was becoming increasingly difficult to hide. Royal historians often point out that Diana revolutionized the emotional relationship between monarchy and ordinary people. Previous royal generations largely maintained emotional distance. Diana broke that barrier entirely. She touched people, held hands, cried publicly, showed vulnerability, and that vulnerability made her unforgettable. Even the tiara photographs carried emotional complexity. Beneath the polished royal image, viewers could sense something deeper in her eyes: loneliness, pressure, longing, exhaustion. It made her seem real, and the public connected with that authenticity more powerfully than the monarchy had anticipated. Interestingly, the Spencer tiara itself continued carrying historical significance long after Diana's lifetime. The piece became permanently associated with her image and legacy. Future generations no longer viewed it simply as aristocratic jewelry. It became Diana's tiara. That emotional ownership mattered more than official ownership ever could. Today, whenever historians discuss iconic royal jewelry, the Spencer tiara stands beside some of the most famous pieces in royal history precisely because Diana transformed its meaning. Jewelry alone cannot create legend. People create legend, and Diana created one unlike any before her. Fashion experts frequently note that Diana possessed an extraordinary ability to modernize royal elegance without destroying tradition. She respected history while subtly reshaping it for a new era. Younger generations suddenly became interested in royal fashion because of her influence. Designers admired her instinctive understanding of silhouette and visual storytelling. Photographers adored how naturally she moved before cameras. The public admired her warmth. And even critics struggled to deny her cultural impact. When Diana wore a tiara, she did not appear buried beneath royal ceremony. She appeared illuminated by it. That distinction changed everything. Many royal women before her had worn magnificent jewels. Yet few managed to make the jewels feel emotionally alive. Diana achieved that effortlessly. The tiara became part of her narrative rather than merely an accessory. And perhaps that is why these images remain timeless. Because they capture more than beauty. They capture contradiction. Strength mixed with fragility. Privilege mixed with loneliness. Elegance mixed with sadness. The world often romanticizes royal life, imagining endless luxury and admiration. Diana's story exposed the emotional cost hidden beneath palace glamour. The tiara represented both dream and burden simultaneously. To millions watching worldwide, it symbolized perfection. To Diana, it may sometimes have felt like armor. As years passed, her relationship with the royal institution became increasingly strained. Public sympathy shifted dramatically towards her. Interviews, media revelations, and visible emotional struggles transformed her from royal celebrity into something far more profound, a human figure trapped inside global scrutiny. Yet even during turbulent years, her iconic tiara appearances remained embedded in public memory. Because visually, they represented the peak of royal enchantment. One cannot discuss Diana's tiara legacy without mentioning the extraordinary influence she continues to hold over fashion and jewelry culture today. Modern bridal tiaras, aristocratic-inspired headpieces, and countless luxury jewelry collections still draw inspiration from the graceful romantic style associated with her. Even decades later, designers reference her silhouettes. Jewelers study her balance between glamour and simplicity. Documentary filmmakers continue analyzing her visual impact, and audiences remain endlessly fascinated. That fascination exists because Diana's image transcended celebrity. She became mythology, yet unlike mythical figures of the past, her life unfolded under relentless camera flashes, televised broadcasts, and newspaper front pages. The world witnessed her transformation in real time. From shy nursery assistant to royal bride, from glamorous princess to isolated global figure. And throughout those transformations, the tiara remained a recurring symbol. A crown not of absolute power, but of emotional resonance. Some royal historians argue that Diana, unintentionally changed the monarchy more than any royal figure of the 20th century. Her emotional openness forced the institution to modernize publicly. After her era, expectations surrounding royal behavior shifted dramatically. Compassion became more visible. Public engagement became more personal. Emotional accessibility became increasingly important. In many ways, Diana reshaped the image of royalty itself. And strangely enough, the tiara photographs helped achieve that transformation. Because people looking at those images did not merely see diamonds. They saw humanity hidden inside tradition. That emotional connection explains why interest in her jewelry remains so intense today. Museums, exhibitions, documentaries, and collectors continue studying the pieces associated with her life. Each jewel represents not only luxury, but chapters of an extraordinary narrative. The Spencer Tiara especially carries emotional weight because it belonged to both worlds Diana inhabited, aristocratic heritage and royal destiny. It connected past and future, family and institution, freedom and responsibility, love and sacrifice. And perhaps no image captures that duality more perfectly than moments like the one shown here. The soft expression, the youthful elegance, the quiet dignity. At first glance, it appears simply beautiful. But the deeper one looks, the more haunting it becomes, because history allows us to see what audiences at the time could not fully understand. Behind the diamonds stood a woman carrying enormous emotional pressure while trying to preserve grace beneath impossible scrutiny. And somehow, she succeeded, not because she was flawless, but because she was human. That humanity remains the true reason the world still remembers her. Countless royals have worn crowns throughout history. Many possessed greater constitutional power, greater wealth, or greater political influence. Yet few became as beloved as Diana, because love cannot be commanded through ceremony. It must be earned emotionally. And Diana earned it. The tiara, therefore, became more than royal decoration. It became visual poetry, a shining contradiction representing beauty, vulnerability, strength, and sadness all at once. Even now, decades later, photographs of Diana wearing the Spencer tiara continue circulating across documentaries, magazines, museum exhibitions, and social media platforms. Younger generations who never witnessed her lifetime still feel drawn toward the mystery surrounding her image. That alone reveals the scale of her legacy. True icons do not disappear with time, they evolve beyond it. And perhaps the most extraordinary aspect of all is this: Diana never needed the tiara to appear remarkable. The tiara needed Diana, because before her, it was simply historic jewelry. After her, it became immortal.